Okay, well, welcome Dr. Suzannah Bozzone and Kim Campbell, and I'm Nelson Campbell. And today we're going to talk about a healing immersion program at Lake Junaluska in the beautiful mountains of Western North Carolina, March 24th to 29th. And you can learn about this at Campbell Retreats, that's plural, campbellretreats.com. But anyways, I'd like to get started here by introducing the two of you because you're going to be a key part of this program. So Dr. Suzannah Bozzone, family medicine physician with a practice practicing in Chattanooga, Tennessee, so not too far from here, and also a physician with Love Life Telehealth, which is a fantastic kind of plant-based telehealth service. And if you are interested in learning about that, you can go to love.life. And then Kim Campbell, who is a chef and nationally regarded cookbook author and my life partner. And she spearheads all things culinary for our organizations and has great educational experience. So both will be joining me again for this upcoming immersion, March 24th to 29th. Which again, you can learn about at campbellretreats.com. I'm going to provide a little background to how we got here, but before I do, I want to give you, the two of you, a chance to say a few words. Dr. Bozzone?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be part of this amazing team. And really, my whole mission is really empowering, inspiring patients and people and communities to live a healthy life that's purpose-driven and also joyful, and that we can really come together as a community, living journeys towards our best selves and finding it fun and connecting in the process so that hopefully we can break down some of those barriers that people find on a regular basis to healthy living. So I'm really excited for this retreat and for partnering with you, amazing people, and I'll hand it over to Kim.
Mm-hmm. That was great, Suzannah. We're excited to have you with us as well. I'm really excited to share Lake Junaluska because it's such a beautiful place in so many ways and for so many reasons. One of the reasons I was really passionate about doing a program like this at Junaluska was to connect people. We've all been disconnected for so long because of the pandemic that this is really nice. Our last retreat was wonderful, and the connections that people made and the friendships. I'm really looking forward to that part of it, and teaching people how to cook healthy and eat healthy and sending them home with some great ideas and just passion about the food.
Yeah, that's great. And I should mention, actually, before we go any further, just a 30,000 foot level outline of the event. The purpose of the event is to introduce people to a plant-based diet and importantly, to equip them to transition and sustain that lifestyle. So this isn't a one-off type event. We want to help people go and stay plant-based. And we're encouraging people who are in need of healing to come. But also, if anyone out there is already plant-based, you're welcome too. And we would encourage you to bring maybe a friend or family member, someone who's in need of healing, to come with you and join. You guys can go on the journey together and even share a room to cut down on your costs. I should also point out that we discounted the price of this immersion by $500. This is our first immersion here at Lake Junaluska, so we don't know if we're going to do that again, but we encourage you to take advantage of that. So I'll just give a quick kind of synopsis of our background, how we got here. We've been running immersions, Kim and I, in different forms for over 10 years. And of course, Dr. Bozzone, she's been practicing food as medicine as well through her practice. She's becoming quite a well-known advocate of plant-based nutrition. But the immersion programs that we've been running, we started working on over 10 years ago. So 2 to 3 years before release of our film Plant Pure Nation in 2015. And after that film, we did these immersions all over the place. We did some here in rural North Carolina. We did one in a mobile home community next to a swamp area in southwest Louisiana. We did one on the northern plains of Indiana, Dominican community in New York City. And I think our most dramatic experience was in Greensboro, North Carolina. And that immersion we featured in a film called From Food to Freedom. And Kim, which you can find on YouTube. And Kim, you were an important part of that. Do you want to say anything about that experience?
That was such a, to me, it was almost a spiritual experience because we were all living together, and it was a smaller group. We had Dr. Lori Marbus with us, and we were feeding them breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it was 10 days. So it was really nice to make those connections, and we saw phenomenal results. You have to watch the film to see the results. But I had the honor of feeding people and talking to them about what their struggles were and strategies and how to do this. So for me, it was probably the best experience I've ever had since we started Plant Pure Nation.
Yeah, and again, the results were dramatic. And what we're going to be offering in March is similar to what you'll see in that film, From Food to Freedom on YouTube. For this immersion, we are so excited to be working with you, Dr. Bozzone. You're going to be providing on-site 24/7 supervision. So hopefully you'll get a few minutes sleep, but when you're here. But no, you'll be here the whole time from start to finish. And I wanted to ask you, why is it important that we have this kind of medical supervision for a program like this?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when we look at the data and we look at what is really driving what most of us are suffering from in the medical world, that's chronic disease. And we know very clearly from our evidence that chronic disease is rooted in the way we live, largely, predominantly by the food we eat. And so when we are transitioning or changing over into a whole food plant-based diet, which is the most effective way to fight disease rather than feed it with the food that we put in our mouth, we can see some pretty dramatic changes. And as a result, if you're on medications such as insulin for diabetes or other medications for diabetes that can drop your sugars down and are meant to drop your sugars down when your sugars are high, but the sugars are often high because of insulin resistance driven by the food we eat and the way we live. And that's coming from a place of power and not blame. So not to say that we are causing our own disease, but rather that we have the great opportunity that many people are not aware of to fight our disease from the roots and recognize that we are not the same as our disease, but rather that we can look and use these evidence-based tools to reverse the root causes of why the sugar's high. And often we don't learn that in the medical system because as a physician, I wasn't trained in that until I got certified in lifestyle medicine. So why is it important to have medical care is really to recognize that we have to watch those things closely because it can be very dangerous if you're eating this very clean diet and you're moving more and you're connecting with nature and we're combining all of these wonderful healing mechanisms, predominantly the food, but all these other things that can help reduce and normalize your sugar. But if you're still on medications that are driving it down, it can be very dangerous. So I'm going to be there to make sure we're watching you closely, whether it's your blood pressure, which oftentimes we need to reduce blood pressure medicine, and other medications that as we address the root drivers and eat a diet that fights disease rather than fuels it, we need to have some medical guidance to make sure we're doing that in a safe way. And that's one of the reasons that I am coming.
Yeah, that's great. It really is incredible how fast people heal when they go into a program like this. And I imagine that you probably have a few healing stories of your own in your own practice.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And I just can't tell you how, it's as Chrissy Smith, who's my health coach, and she will also be there to help us as well. What she says is, it's like Santa and sex. Once you know, you can't unknow. So it's really miraculous because, going through medical school and really, in a sense, doing what I thought was a lot of good. However, recognizing that I was in some ways fueling the sickness because I'm giving medications and dependence rather than power and rather than the education and the knowledge and the evidence to show that we can do this in a different way and sometimes without medication or certainly with less medication. And so as I kind of transitioned from the sick holistic care system into the lifestyle medicine mechanisms, you just see the most amazing things. I mean, one of my most favorite patients that I think of, because she was kind of early on when I was doing this, and she was young. She was, I'd say kind of in her 30s, upper 30s, and she was on over 8 medications. She was on about kind of 10 medications, and she had tried to go plant-based, but really didn't have the guidance. And that's another thing, that it's so nice to do this around a community of people that know what to expect. And so she had a lot of kind of withdrawal and then gut symptoms and things that we'll walk you through if you're new to this style of eating, that is part of the transition. And just to know that we have to train our microbiome. We have to train our bodies to adapt to a new way of eating. And in that, sometimes people have different struggles. And so the first time she had tried it, she kind of tried to do it on her own, and she had a lot of worse headaches, and she had a lot of gut stuff as her body was detoxifying. And and I wasn't with her at that time, but then she came to see me for the second try, and she's like, I really want to do this, but I want to do this with guidance. And in such a short amount of time, she lost 30 pounds. It was within 2 months, she was off of 8 medications. She went from having daily migraine headaches to having no headaches at all. She went from all of these asthma and allergy medications to, in her worst allergy season, she's like, I ran out of my allergy medicine and I don't even seem to need it, and this is usually my worst time of year. And I just saw her switch and transform to this person who she didn't ever know it was possible to do that. And at about her, it was like her 2 or 3 month follow-up. I was like, well, what do you think? I mean, are you kind of excited about what you've done? And she had kind of a strange response, because she said, well, actually, I feel kind of guilty. And I thought that was a really strange thing to say, because I was like really excited for it. She said, yeah, I feel kind of guilty that I've been struggling with these diseases or conditions, if you will, for years. And there's so many other people like me that don't know that this is possible, and don't know that you can possibly change it. And all the time that I've spent in my medical office and medical clinic visits and things like that, no one's ever suggested to me that I do this. And to think of how much money she spent on medications and all that. And so it was kind of an interesting feedback. And that was one of the earliest big transformations that I saw. But to think of in the context of doing this as a group and growing that community, and how it really is a ripple effect, because when, you guys, the patients speak far louder than we could ever speak, because, why should they believe us? But when they do it, and then their friends are like, man, what are you doing? I want some of that. Then it really speaks to that, it's doable, and it can be fun and joyful, and we can bring community around it, and we can grow this incredible power that everyone deserves to be aware of, and to have the option to do themselves.
Yeah, so that's great. That was a really nice story. And as we've gone around the country and done this, we've had similar experiences, and it's just great to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So this program will include 24/7 medical supervision, which you'll provide, and Chrissy. We also are going to be educating folks. So each morning we're going to have various educational sessions, and I'll get it started off on Monday. I'm going to just kind of frame the week with the talk. And then I'm going to talk about my father's research. My father's Dr. Colin Campbell. He's the famous scientist who helped validate the health benefits of a plant-based diet. And then I'm going to hand it off to you the following morning to do a couple sessions. So just in a few sentences, what are you going to cover, Suzannah?
Yeah, so I'm going to start out with food as medicine. So clinically speaking, how does it apply to a lot of the conditions that we struggle with, and what to kind of expect? So we'll talk a little bit about the transition and things like that in the first presentation. And then the second presentation, we're going to talk about, it's not just the food, it's the framework, right? It's the when, the how, the why, like not just what we're eating, but when we're eating it, and how important movement and stress management and sleep. Sleep is really big, because a lot of times we miss some of those things, and that it's really important that we set up our body to receive these incredible nutrients in a positive way. And then the last talk is really about the power of the mind. And so how big it is when we've been told that we're pathologic, or that our identity is our diagnosis, that our mind can be a big power and can help us, or sometimes it can be something that we have to kind of retrain and look at our perception and our experience and our mental health, and how we can support with our self-care our mental health, so that we can succeed and create an action plan that's sustainable for us, that really is not one of criticism or of blame, but rather that is helping us along this journey with all the emotions that come up on the journey to your best self. So that's kind of an overview of what I'll be talking about.
Well, that's great. And you referenced something at the end, which is really exciting. Thursday morning, we're going to do some brainstorming, and we're going to help people come up with action plans to bring back home. So we've done these immersions enough to know that what happens after the immersion is actually what's most critical. So we're going to provide a lot of support to people. And that brings us to the food. Because it really is all about the food. It's incredible how much this change process rests on the food. Being able to make the food and preparing food that's tasty and delicious. So Kim, you're going to be helping us with that. And, the afternoon is kind of reserved for you. And also, Dr. Bozzone, you'll be meeting with some patients in the afternoon. We'll leave time for walks around beautiful Lake Junaluska, and we'll have a yoga session as well. But Kim, you're going to be kind of featured in the afternoon. Why don't you walk us through what you're going to be teaching over the 4 days?
Yes. So I'm going to do a recipe demonstration every day. We'll do some recipe that we're probably going to be eating for dinner or for lunch. So we'll get to sample it as well. But around those recipes are going to be specific culinary techniques. I'll have a whole lesson on kitchen appliances and how to stock your kitchen up so you have tools and equipment, because that's a question I get all the time. How to set up your pantry, how to read labels, how to shop at the grocery store, and most of all, how to meal plan. Because I think that's where people really trip up, is they go home and they get inspired and they do it for a little while and then they run out of ideas. So really, equipping people with meal plans and ideas, and really teaching them how to do that. And then sending them home with a specific meal plan and with some meal starters, so they can have something under their arm and carry it home, and hopefully be successful. So, I want to speak to what Suzannah said about people, as they start to get into this and they become passionate, their emotions begin to change and they become more positive and more open-minded. It's really fun to watch that. We watched it in Greensboro, and it was fun to watch the last one, because as people started to eat the food, I had someone say to me, "This food tastes delicious." I don't know what they were expecting, maybe kale and radishes, I don't know, but they really enjoyed the food, and they realized, "Wow, I can do this, and I can actually receive pleasure from it." And the philosophy that Nelson and I both have about food and nutrition is to prepare foods that are comfortable. I mean, if you're not from Japan, you're probably not going to love sushi every day. So we're going to try to grab those meals that are all American. We'll do things like barbecue sauces and, soups and stews and New England chowders. And it's a great meal plan that we have prepared. So I can talk about food all day, but I'll stop there, because that's my passion, is really giving people those tools to be successful.
Well, you just touched on something that was going to be the next question I asked, which is your culinary philosophy, which is really what you just said, kind of those comfort food, familiar flavors and textures. And it truly, the meal plan is going to be fantastic. That's actually one of the most exciting things about doing an immersion, is people come into it, people who've been eating cheeseburgers and potato chips, and they're just shocked at how good the food tastes.
I grew up with parents who are very traditional, and I think in a way that's in my favor. My father was a dairy farmer, and he loved his cheese and he loved his eggs and bacon, and I did too. So I feel like that was a gift that he gave me, because now I know a little bit about flavor and how to develop those flavors so that we can get people to walk into this gradually and not fall on their face.
Yeah, and we have a great partner, the executive chef at the hotel, the Terrace Hotel, which is right across the street from where we're going to be meeting. He and his team will actually be preparing the food, but using your recipes. You want to just give a sense of maybe a couple of the dishes that we might have?
I think I gave some of them away, but what I'm trying to do is to dance around some of those comfort foods, and some of them are not necessarily in our culture, but we're doing a little bit of Indian. We're going to have palak paneer. We're going to do a little bit of Asian. We have a New England chowder. We have a barbecue. Breakfast is great. Breakfast, we have scrambled tofu, and there's granola that's homemade. Our chef makes it. Our chef is fantastic. He has a salad bar to die for. So before you even get to the entree, you have all the vegetables, and it's not just kale and radishes, it's so much more. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and a couple of things. One is also I should point out that Dr. Bozzone is totally aligned with our thinking about food and nutrition. We're all on the same page and can't wait to sit down and eat this food. But this is really important, Kim. What are we sending people home with? You said a meal plan. Did you mention the meal starters too?
Yeah, there'll be a meal plan, and I'll send them home with all the recipes of things that we're preparing for the classes, but there'll be a meal plan, but there'll be meal starters. So Nelson and I worked very hard to create. I like to think of them like hamburger helper. It's sort of the beginning of a meal, so you don't have to get out all the spices and the different things. But we have a cheese sauce and an enchilada pack. We have a gravy pack. We have a coconut curry. So they'll be able to take those packs home, and they'll be able to build meals around them. And I think, I'm not sure, I'll check with Nelson on this, but I think they have videos too that go with it. So
Yes, we will
night.
be. We will
Yeah,
be
so every
providing
night when they
videos.
go home, they can watch the video that goes with the burger pack. And, you know,
Yeah.
you can make a meatloaf or a veggie loaf. You can make different kinds of burgers or veggie balls. So that's all in the video. So we're going to do a little bit of hand holding, and hopefully people won't be completely lost when they go home. But, you know, I find that people get so passionate when they leave that they get more creative than I get with food. So it's really fun to watch.
Yeah. So this is, again, we're taking a lot of what the three of us have collectively learned on bringing it to this immersion. So we're very excited about this. And then at the end of the day, Thursday evening, we're going to have a big party. So we're going to have a kind of a local Appalachian Mountain folk music band. They play all kinds of music, actually, different genres, but they're kind of in the folk music category, very typical of this area. So we're going to do that Thursday evening. We're going to have other entertainment through the week. We're going to do a film screening. We're going to have an evening social. We're going to have a mountain storyteller, maybe two, we'll see, but at least one. And then, as I said, we'll have lake walks and afternoon yoga. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I don't know if you mentioned, Nelson, but the lake is beautiful. The lake setting kind of sits in a bowl, and you look at the mountains as you walk around the lake, and Nelson and I walk around that lake a lot.
Yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous. So you've got a 2-3 mile walk whenever you want. So
At the moment, it's a big hole in the ground because they've drained it and they're dredging it. But I was told that not to worry, it will be refilled by March 24th. So, but before we wrap up, Dr. Bozzone, why don't you say a few words? Anything else more you want to share?
Yeah, well, I just am so excited for this experience. I think it's going to be amazing. I think it couldn't be in a more beautiful place, and to remember that, you know, it's about the food, but it's also about so much more, the community, the joy, the finding the inspiration and having a realistic plan, and to recognize, you know, that this builds so much confidence by coming and doing this, and to recognize that, well, it's not as overwhelming as I thought, because I think a lot of people put up these barriers because maybe it seems so foreign, but there's nothing like this kind of experience to see, oh my gosh, not only do I feel the transition in my body and recognize sometimes we don't even know how bad we feel until we start to feel good. And so there's so much power, and I think that anybody that decides to come to this will not regret it. I think it will be a really life transformational experience.
Well, thank you. And we are so looking forward to seeing you here.
Yes, me too. I can't wait.
It's going to be so much fun. Kim, any more final words?
I'm actually excited to go to Suzanna's program because I think I have a lot to learn from you too. I think you're right. I think that it's all the pillars of health, right? It's not just the food, although I'm passionate about the food. But there's so many pieces to this, but the most beautiful part for me is to watch humans come together and make friendships. And that's what we need.
Yeah, and I mean, just as a little side note, just to tag on to that, you know, I'm very much in the world of employee health and looking at trends with mental health, which unfortunately are very sad right now. But the loneliness, that it's such a big deal. I just want to speak to that because the U.S. Surgeon General has just basically said that we're in a loneliness crisis, and what I often see, particularly since COVID, is that people sometimes feel a little isolated when they try to make healthy decisions, and particularly when they're trying to eat healthy. And then all of a sudden they feel like, oh, well, I guess I can't go to this birthday party, or how am I going to participate in Christmas, you know, or these things. And so I think it's that piece of this is coming together and addressing that loneliness crisis, but also recognizing that this is something that is best done together, and that it doesn't have to look one way, and it also is something that unites us and not divides us. And that's something I think people struggle a lot with until they get an experience like this. So I think there's so much power to bring that and address the loneliness crisis amidst all of us and make community around healthy living.
Yeah, that's perfect, Suzannah. Really, really well said. You know, it truly is an incredible experience when people are waking up to the power that they have over their health and the joy that they feel. And then when people go through that together, you know, it almost becomes a spiritual experience. It's very emotional. And to me, it feels spiritual to have that kind of communion between people. It's on a very deep level. So we love doing these. They're kind of addictive. And we hope that people can join us. So once again, to learn about this, you can go to campbellretreats.com. That's plural, campbellretreats.com. It's March 24th to 29th. If you're interested, go ahead and register. We don't have a whole lot of time left. And as I said, we did discount this one by $500. So if you're interested, now's a good time. So we would really hope that you can join us. And thank you for listening to us share this with you. Thank you, Suzannah, for coming, and Kim.